The parking garage smelled like burnt rubber and stale coffee, a scent I'd grown used to after 3 years of working double shifts at the diner. My feet ached in my worn sneakers, and all I wanted was to collapse into my cramped studio apartment and forget that Mrs. Henderson had stiffed me on a tip after I'd refilled her decaf 4 times. The fluorescent lights overhead buzzed like angry wasps as I approached my beat-up Honda Civic, keys already in hand. Then I saw it. A black SUV, sleek, massive, and clearly expensive, parked so close to my driver's side that I couldn't have squeezed through even if I'd skipped meals for a week, which honestly, I had been doing lately. Rent was due in 3 days, and my bank account was laughing at me. "You've got to be kidding me," I muttered, circling my car. The SUV's windows were tinted so dark they looked like sheets of obsidian. I couldn't see inside, couldn't tell if anyone was even in there. My exhaustion morphed into irritation, then anger. I'd been on my feet for 12 hours. I didn't have time for this. I knocked on the driver's window. Nothing. Knocked harder. Still nothing. "Hey," I called out, my voice echoing off the concrete walls. "You're blocking my car. I need to leave." Silence. The kind that feels deliberate. That's when something snapped inside me. Maybe it was the accumulated weight of every condescending customer, every unpaid bill, every time I'd smiled through gritted teeth while someone treated me like I was invisible. I was so tired of being invisible. I banged on the window with my fist. "I know you can hear me in there. Move your car, or I'm calling." The door opened. I stumbled back, heart suddenly hammering against my ribs. A man stepped out. No, that wasn't quite right. He didn't step. He emerged, like darkness taking human form, tall, probably 6'3", with broad shoulders that filled out his black suit jacket in a way that suggested both money and danger. The suit itself looked like it cost more than my yearly rent. His dark hair was styled with careless precision, and his face, God, his face shouldn't have been legal. Sharp jawline, high cheekbones, lips that curved into something between amusement and irritation. But it was his eyes that froze me in place. Dark, calculating, cold in a way that made my survival instincts scream. They swept over me slowly, deliberately, taking in my stained uniform, my messy ponytail, my complete lack of threat. "You were saying?" His voice was low, smooth, with an accent I couldn't quite place, British maybe, with something else underneath. Each word was measured, controlled. I should have apologized, should have backed away. Something primal in my hindbrain was frantically waving red flags, sending up distress signals, begging me to run. But I was too angry, too tired, too done with rich people thinking they owned the world. I said, "Move your car. You're blocking me in." I crossed my arms, trying to look braver than I felt. "I've been working all day, and I just want to go home." His eyebrow lifted fractionally. Behind him, I noticed for the first time that another man had emerged from the passenger side, bigger, built like a wall, with a scar running down his left cheek. He wore an earpiece and looked at me like I was an insect he was deciding whether to crush. "Marco," the suited man said without looking back. "Give the lady some space." Marco, the wall with a scar, took a step back, but didn't leave. His hand rested near his jacket, in a way that made my mouth go dry. Did he have a gun? Jesus Christ, did he have a gun? "I apologize for the inconvenience," the man continued, turning those unsettling eyes back to me. My driver wasn't paying attention to spacing. "Your driver?" I glanced back at the SUV. Through the windshield, I could now make out a third figure behind the wheel. 3 men. 3 men in an expensive SUV with tinted windows in an underground parking garage at 11 at night. What the hell had I just done? "Yes." He took a step closer, and I caught his scent. Cedar and something darker, more expensive. The kind of cologne that came in bottles without price tags. "You're very brave, you know, or very foolish. I haven't decided which." "I'm neither," I said, hating how my voice shook slightly. "I'm just tired." Something flickered across his face. Interest, maybe, or recognition of something. His gaze traveled from my face down to my name tag, lingering there. "Emma," he read aloud. my name sounding different in his mouth, intimate somehow. "You work at Rosie's Diner." It wasn't a question. The way he said it made my skin prickle with unease. "How did you—" "The logo on your uniform," he nodded toward my chest, where Rosie's curling script was embroidered in faded red thread, but something in his tone suggested he'd already known, had already looked me up in the 3 seconds it took him to exit his vehicle. "Right." I swallowed hard. "So, can you move your car or not?" He studied me for a long moment, head tilted slightly, like I was a puzzle he was trying to solve. The parking garage suddenly felt smaller, the air thicker. Marco shifted his weight, and the movement drew my attention to the definite bulge under his jacket. Oh God, these weren't just rich jerks. These were dangerous rich jerks, of course, the man finally said. He pulled out a phone. No, phones, plural. 2 sleek devices emerged from his pocket. He checked one briefly, his expression darkening at whatever he saw on the screen, before tucking both away. "Marco, move the vehicle, now." "Sir." Marco started, his voice gravelly. "Now." Marco's jaw tightened, but he obeyed. The way he obeyed, instant, absolute, sent another chill down my spine. This wasn't an employer-employee relationship. This was something else entirely. The man remained standing there, watching me. I should have gotten in my car the moment Marco climbed into the SUV. Should have locked my doors and driven away without looking back, but I couldn't move. Couldn't look away from those dark eyes that seemed to see straight through my exhaustion, my anger, my fear, down to something deeper. "You should be more careful," he said softly, and there was something almost concerned in his tone. No, that couldn't be right. Yelling at strangers in parking garages. "You don't know who you might encounter. I can handle myself," I lied. His lips curved into something that might have been a smile if it had contained any warmth. "Can you?" The SUV's engine purred to life, a sound more suited to a predator than a vehicle. It pulled back smoothly, efficiently, leaving my pathetic Honda suddenly visible in all its dented glory. The contrast was almost comical. "There," he said, "you're free to go." But he didn't move, didn't step back to give me space. Instead, he reached into his jacket. My heart nearly stopped, and pulled out a business card. Black, expensive looking, with silver lettering. "If you ever need anything," he held it out toward me. "Call this number." I stared at the card like it might bite me. "Why would I need anything from you?" "You never know." He pressed it into my palm before I could protest, his fingers brushing against my skin. They were warm, surprisingly warm for someone who seemed so cold. The touch lasted a fraction too long, and I felt it all the way up my arm. The world is more dangerous than a girl like you realizes. A girl like me. The condescension in those words should have made me furious, but instead I felt something else, something uncomfortable and unwelcome that made my stomach flutter. I looked down at the card. No name, just a phone number in elegant silver script. The cardstock was heavy, expensive, the kind that whispered money and power. When I looked up again, he was already walking away, Marco falling into step beside him. They moved with synchronized precision toward the elevator at the far end of the garage. Before the doors closed, he glanced back at me one final time. Even from that distance, I felt the weight of his gaze. The elevator doors shut, and I was alone. I stood there for a full minute, heart still racing, the business card burning a hole in my palm. What the hell had just happened? Who was he? And why did I feel like I'd just made a terrible, terrible mistake? My hands shook as I unlocked my car. I threw the card onto the passenger seat like it might contaminate me, started the engine, and pulled out of the garage faster than I should have. But I couldn't stop checking my rearview mirror. Couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. Couldn't forget those dark eyes, or the way my name had sounded in his mouth, or the strange, terrifying flutter in my chest when he'd touched my hand. I drove home on autopilot, my mind replaying every second of the encounter. The way he'd looked at me, not through me, like most people did, but at me, really seeing me, the careful control in his voice, the instant obedience from Marco, the 2 phones, the expensive suit. the danger that radiated from him like heat from asphalt in summer. My studio apartment had never felt quite so small, quite so vulnerable. I locked the door, threw the deadbolt, and even pushed my rickety kitchen chair under the doorknob for good measure. The business card sat on my tiny kitchen table, innocuous and terrifying. I should throw it away, should forget this ever happened. Instead, I picked it up, running my thumb over the silver numbers. No name, no company, just a phone number that probably led to something I didn't want to know about. I thought about the gun-shaped bulge under Marco's jacket, about the cold calculation in those dark eyes, about the way the man had said, "You never know," like he knew something I didn't. My phone buzzed, making me jump. Just a text from my coworker Sarah, asking if I wanted to pick up an extra shift tomorrow. I started to type a response, then paused. Through my apartment's single grimy window, I could see the street below. A black SUV was parked across the street. Same model. Same tinted windows. My blood ran cold. It couldn't be the same one, could it? This was a big city. Lots of black SUVs. I was being paranoid. But as I watched, the driver's side window rolled down just an inch. Not enough to see inside. Just enough to let me know someone was there, watching. The business card seemed to pulse in my hand, the silver numbers catching the dim light from my kitchen lamp. I grabbed my phone, fingers hovering over the keypad. Should I call the police? And tell them what? That a man had blocked my car and given me his phone number. That now I thought maybe he was outside my apartment. They'd think I was crazy. Maybe I was crazy. I looked at the card again, then at the SUV, then back at the card. What had I gotten myself into? I didn't sleep. How could I, knowing that SUV was parked outside? Every creak of the building, every distant siren, every shadow that crossed my window sent my heart racing. I lay in bed, fully clothed, clutching my phone, the business card on my nightstand like a loaded gun. At 4:47 a.m., I finally gave up on sleep. My shift at Rosie's started at 6 anyway. I showered quickly, the weak water pressure doing nothing to wash away the anxiety clinging to my skin. When I peeked through the curtains, the SUV was gone. Relief and disappointment warred in my chest. Had I imagined it? Was I losing my mind? The morning air was crisp as I walked the 6 blocks to the diner, my breath forming small clouds in the pre-dawn darkness. I kept checking over my shoulder, kept thinking I heard footsteps that weren't there. The city was just waking up, delivery trucks rumbling past. The homeless man who slept in the doorway of the closed bookstore starting to stir. The smell of fresh bread from the bakery 2 streets over. Normal. Everything was normal. Rosie's Diner was a chrome and vinyl relic from the 50s, all red leather booths and black and white checkered floors. I'd worked there since dropping out of community college 3 years ago when Mom got sick. The cancer had taken everything, her life, our savings, any chance I had of becoming something more than a waitress who smelled like coffee and broken dreams. "You look like hell," Sarah said when I pushed through the employee entrance. She was already in her uniform, dark hair pulled back in a neat bun that made my messy ponytail look even more pathetic. Rough night? Couldn't sleep. I tied on my apron, avoiding her eyes. How could I explain what happened? That some dangerous man in an expensive suit had looked at me like I was something precious and terrifying all at once. Well, coffee's fresh. And we've got a new customer in booth 7 who specifically asked for you. My head snapped up. What? Yeah. Weird, right? He came in about 20 minutes ago, real fancy looking. Asked which server was named Emma. Sarah waggled her eyebrows suggestively. Secret admirer? My mouth went dry. What does he look like? Tall, dark, gorgeous? Like he walked out of a cologne commercial. Why? You know him? I grabbed the coffee pot with shaking hands. I'll take booth 7. Lucky bitch, Sarah muttered, but she was smiling. I forced myself to walk slowly, professionally, even though every instinct screamed at me to run. Booth 7 was in the back corner, the table where regulars sat when they wanted privacy. And there he was. He'd removed his suit jacket, revealing a crisp white shirt with the sleeves rolled up to his forearms. Strong forearms, I noticed unwillingly, with fine dark hair, and what looked like the edge of a tattoo peeking out from under the fabric. His hair was slightly less perfect than last night, a few strands falling across his forehead in a way that made him look younger. Almost human. Almost. Those dark eyes found mine immediately, and something electric shot through my stomach. "Good morning, Emma." He said my name like he'd been practicing, like he enjoyed the shape of it in his mouth. "What are you doing here?" The words came out sharper than I intended. An elderly couple 2 booths over glanced up from their scrambled eggs. He gestured to the empty seat across from him. "Having breakfast. Please sit. I'm working." "Then work. Bring me coffee. Black, no sugar." He leaned back against the red vinyl, completely at ease, like he owned the place. Maybe he did. How would I know? "And whatever you recommend. The pancakes are good." My hand tightened around the coffee pot. "How did you know I worked mornings?" "I didn't. I've been here since 5. He said it casually, like it was perfectly normal to stake out a diner before dawn. "Waited to see if you'd show up. Lucky guess on the shift." 3 hours. He'd been waiting 3 hours. "That's..." I started, then stopped. Creepy, obsessive, terrifying, all of the above. But the words stuck in my throat, weighted down by the intensity of his gaze. "Thorough," he finished for me. "I'm thorough in everything I do, Emma." The way he said my name sent a shiver down my spine that had nothing to do with fear and everything to do with something I refused to acknowledge. I poured his coffee with hands that only trembled slightly. "I'll put your order in." His fingers caught my wrist, gentle but firm, warm against my pulse point. "Sit with me." 5 minutes. "I can't. I'm working. I'll make it worth your while." He released my wrist but pulled out his wallet, extracting several crisp $100 bills and laying them on the table. "For your time." I stared at the money. That was more than I made in a week, more than enough to cover rent and still have some left over for groceries that weren't ramen noodles. "I don't want your money," I lied. "Everyone wants money, Emma. The only question is what they're willing to do for it." He pushed the bills toward me. "I'm only asking you to sit, to talk." That's hardly a sin. My manager, Pete, was watching from behind the counter. The morning rush would start soon. I had tables to prep, coffee to brew. A life to pretend was normal even though nothing felt normal anymore. But I sat. 5 minutes, I said firmly. 5 minutes. He smiled then. A real smile, not the cold curve of lips from last night. It transformed his face, made him look less like danger incarnate, and more like a man who found genuine pleasure in getting what he wanted. "Thank you." "Why are you here, really?" He took a sip of coffee, considering me over the rim of the cup. "You interest me." "I'm not interesting. I'm a waitress who drives a car held together by duct tape and prayers." "You stood up to me last night. Do you have any idea how rare that is?" He set down his cup, leaning forward. The morning light streaming through the window caught the sharp angles of his face, highlighting a small scar near his left temple I hadn't noticed before. Most people take one look at me and understand. They see what I am. But you were angry about your parking space. I was tired. You were magnificent. The word hung in the air between us, intimate and dangerous. So small and fierce, banging on my window like you could actually hurt me. I didn't know who you were, and if you had, I thought about Marco's gun, about the way everyone obeyed instantly, about the expensive suits and multiple phones. I would have walked away. Exactly. He leaned back, satisfied, like I'd just proven his point, which is why you're interesting. You see me as a person, not a position. What position is that? His smile turned enigmatic. Does it matter? Yes. I met his eyes directly, forcing myself not to look away, even though it felt like staring into the sun. If you're going to show up at my workplace and throw money at me, I think I deserve to know who you are. Dangerous. He said it simply, matter-of-factly. I'm someone dangerous, Emma, someone you should stay far away from. Then why are you here? Because I can't seem to help myself. The admission seemed to surprise him as much as it surprised me. He ran a hand through his dark hair, disrupting those perfect strands further. I went home last night fully intending to forget about the tired girl in the parking garage, but I couldn't. I kept thinking about the way you looked at me. Not with fear, not with calculation, but with honest anger because I'd inconvenienced you. Most people would find that annoying, not attractive. I'm not most people. He picked up one of the $100 bills, holding it up to the light. "And I don't think you are either, despite what you tell yourself. You're drowning here, aren't you? Working yourself to exhaustion for scraps. When was the last time you did something just because you wanted to?" The question hit too close to home. I stood abruptly, the vinyl booth squeaking under me. "My 5 minutes are up. Emma, what do you want from me?" The words came out louder than I intended. Pete was definitely watching now, and Sarah had stopped wiping down tables to stare. "Because this, whatever this is, I can't. I don't know what game you're playing, but I'm not a toy." Something dark flashed across his face. He stood too. And even though we were in a public diner in broad daylight, I felt suddenly aware of how much bigger he was, how much power coiled in that lean frame. "I don't play games." His voice was low, controlled, but I heard the edge in it. "And I don't treat people like toys. What I want—" He stopped, jaw tightening, as if fighting some internal battle. "What I want is to know you, to understand why I can't stop thinking about you. You don't even know me. Then let me." He stepped closer, close enough that I could smell that cedar and smoke scent again, see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes. "Have dinner with me. One dinner. If you hate every second of it, I'll disappear. You'll never see me again. And if I say no, then I'll disappear anyway." But the way he said it, the way his eyes traced over my face like he was memorizing every detail, told me he didn't believe I'd say no. "But I don't think you will. Why not?" He reached out slowly, giving me time to pull away, and tucked a loose strand of hair behind my ear. His fingers lingered against my cheek for just a heartbeat. "Because you're just as curious as I am. Because your life is suffocating you and I'm offering air. Because when I touched your wrist, your pulse jumped." I hated that he was right. Hated that some traitorous part of me wanted to say yes, wanted to see what would happen if I took this dangerous man's hand and let him pull me into whatever dark world he inhabited. "I don't even know your name," I whispered. He smiled. That devastating, transformative smile. "Lucian. My name is Lucian." "Lucian," I repeated, testing it. It fit him. Elegant and dangerous, like the man himself. "Say it again." His thumb brushed my cheekbone. "I like how it sounds in your voice." The bell above the diner door chimed. Marco walked in, and the entire atmosphere shifted. He scanned the room with those predatory eyes, assessing threats, calculating exits. His hand rested inside his jacket, on a gun, I was now certain. Lucian dropped his hand immediately, stepping back to put appropriate distance between us. But his eyes never left my face. "Sir," Marco said quietly, "we need to go. Antonio called. There's a situation." Something dangerous flickered across Lucian's expression, something that made Marco tense, made the elderly couple suddenly very interested in their check, made the hair on my arms stand up. "I see." Lucian's voice had gone cold again, all the warmth from moments before evaporating. He was back to being the man from the parking garage, controlled, calculating, lethal. "Tell him I'm on my way." Marco nodded and retreated to wait by the door, but his eyes kept sweeping the diner, kept coming back to me like I was a threat that needed monitoring. Lucian picked up his suit jacket, shrugging it on with practiced ease. The transformation was complete. The almost human man who'd smiled at me was gone, replaced by someone who commanded rooms just by existing in them. He laid the $100 bills on the table, then added several more. "For the coffee, I won't be drinking. And for your time. I told you I don't want. Take it, Emma. Pride doesn't pay rent." He started to walk away, then paused, turning back. "Dinner. Tomorrow night, 7 o'clock. I'll pick you up." I didn't say yes. You didn't say no. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes anymore. "I'll see you tomorrow." And then he was gone, Marco falling into step beside him as they exited the diner. Through the window, I watched them climb into the same black SUV from last night. It pulled away smoothly, disappearing into morning traffic. I stood there, surrounded by the smell of coffee and bacon, holding a table full of $100 bills that felt like a contract I hadn't agreed to. Sarah appeared at my elbow. "Holy shit, Em. Who was that?" "I have no idea." It was mostly true. I knew his name, knew he was dangerous, Knew he made my heart race in ways that had nothing to do with fear. But I didn't know who he really was, what he really wanted, why he'd chosen me. I counted the money with shaking hands. $800. More than my rent. More than I'd seen in one place since Mom's life insurance had run out. Pete called my name. Tables were filling up. The morning rush was starting. Life was demanding I return to normal. But as I slipped the bills into my apron pocket, as I forced my smile back into place and grabbed the coffee pot, I knew normal was over. Lucian had made sure of that. And the worst part? The absolutely terrifying part? I was already looking forward to tomorrow night. I spent all of the next day convinced he wouldn't show up. Why would he? Men like Lucian, dangerous, wealthy, powerful men who commanded obedience with a glance, didn't actually follow through on dinner invitations to waitresses. The money had been his way of apologizing for whatever bizarre impulse had made him seek me out. By now, he'd probably forgotten I existed. That's what I told myself as I used 200 of those dollars to pay my landlord, as I bought actual groceries for the first time in months, as I stood in front of my pathetic closet at 6:30 that evening, trying to find something, anything, suitable for dinner with a man who wore suits worth more than my car. I settled on a simple black dress I'd worn to Mom's funeral 3 years ago. It was the only remotely nice thing I owned, even if it hung a bit loose now. I'd lost weight I couldn't afford to lose, working doubles and skipping meals. The dress whispered of grief and desperation, but it would have to do. My hands shook as I applied mascara, my only makeup besides a drugstore lipstick that was probably expired. I looked pale, tired, ordinary. What did Lucian see when he looked at me? What could someone like him possibly want from someone like me? At 6:58, I heard the engine. Not the rough cough of normal cars, but a smooth, predatory purr that made my stomach clench. I looked out the window and saw it, a different SUV this time, sleek and silver instead of black, but just as expensive, just as intimidating. Lucian emerged from the back passenger door. He wore another suit, this one charcoal gray that looked liquid in the early evening light. His hair was styled back, revealing the sharp planes of his face, and even from my fourth-floor window, I could see the intensity in his dark eyes as he looked up at my building. Marco climbed out from the driver's seat, surveying the street with practiced wariness. A third man I didn't recognize emerged from the front passenger side. Younger than Marco, but built the same way, all muscle and vigilance. My intercom buzzed, making me jump. This was insane. I should pretend I wasn't home. Should let him stand there until he gave up and left. Should protect myself from whatever this was. Instead, I pressed the button. Hello? Emma. Even through the tinny speaker, his voice sent shivers down my spine. I'm here. I can see that. I pressed my forehead against the wall, closing my eyes. Lucian, don't think, just come down, please. That please shouldn't have affected me. It was just a word. But the way he said it, like it cost him something, like he wasn't used to asking instead of commanding. I grabbed my thin coat, inadequate for the cooling evening but all I had, and headed downstairs. The building's front door stuck like it always did. I had to shoulder it open, nearly stumbling onto the sidewalk in my only pair of heels. Lucian's hand shot out, catching my elbow, steadying me. Careful. His grip was firm, possessive. He didn't let go even after I'd regained my balance. The door sticks, I said stupidly, hyper-aware of his hand on my arm, the heat of his body close to mine, the way Marco and the other man watched us with unreadable expressions. We'll have to fix that. Lucian said it like a fact, not a suggestion. Like he'd already decided to add my broken door to his list of problems to solve. It's not your building. Not yet. He smiled slightly, then seemed to really look at me for the first time. His eyes traveled from my face down to my dress, then back up, and something heated flickered in their depths. You look beautiful. I almost laughed. Beautiful was Sarah with her perfect hair and curves in all the right places. Beautiful was the kind of women men like Lucian probably dated. Models, actresses, heiresses. I was a tired waitress in a funeral dress. You don't have to lie." "I don't lie." He said it with such conviction that I almost believed him. "And you are beautiful. Especially when you blush like that." I hadn't realized I was blushing until he pointed it out, which only made it worse. "Can we just go?" "Of course." He guided me toward the SUV, his hand moving from my elbow to the small of my back. Marco had already opened the rear door, standing beside it like a sentinel. "After you." The interior smelled like leather and money. The seats were cream-colored, pristine, probably worth more than everything I owned combined. I slid across the smooth surface, and Lucian followed, settling beside me closer than strictly necessary. Marco closed the door, sealing us in. The younger man was already in the driver's seat. He met my eyes in the rearview mirror briefly before looking away, jaw tight. "This is Victor," Lucian said, nodding toward the driver. "He'll be taking us to the restaurant. Marco will follow in the other vehicle." "Why do you need 2 cars?" The question slipped out before I could stop it. Lucian's expression didn't change, but something flickered behind his eyes. "Security." "Security from what?" "From people who would hurt me, or take what's mine." His hand found mine on the seat between us, fingers intertwining with mine before I could pull away. "The world I live in isn't safe, Emma. I need to be careful." "Then why bring me into it?" My voice came out smaller than I intended. "Why risk making me a target just by being seen with you, because some risks are worth taking?" He lifted our joined hands, pressing a kiss to my knuckles that made my breath catch. "And because anyone who tried to hurt you would regret it very, very much." The promise in his voice should have frightened me. Instead, it sent a thrill through my body that I didn't want to examine too closely. Victor pulled into traffic with smooth precision, Marco's black SUV falling in behind us. The city lights blurred past the tinted windows as we drove through neighborhoods that grew progressively nicer, away from my rundown area, with its boarded-up shops and graffitied walls, toward the glittering downtown, where people wore clothes that cost more than my monthly salary. "Where are we going?" I asked. "Bianchi's." I'd heard of Bianchi's. Everyone had. It was the kind of restaurant that required reservations months in advance, where celebrities and politicians dined, where a single meal cost more than I made in a week. The kind of place that would take one look at my funeral dress and broken heels and ask me to leave. "I can't go there," I said, panic rising in my chest. "I'm not dressed for, you're with me." Lucian's thumb stroked across my knuckles, soothing and possessive. "That's all that matters. Easy for you to say. You belong in places like that. I belong nowhere." The words came out harsh, edged with something dark. "I've spent my entire life fighting for every scrap of respect, every inch of territory. The only difference between you and me is that I learned to look the part." I studied his profile, the strong nose, the sharp jawline, the slight curve of his lips that suggested both cruelty and tenderness. "Who are you, really? What do you do?" "Does it matter?" "Yes. Because I have a feeling if I Google your name, I won't like what I find." He turned to face me fully, his dark eyes intense in the dim interior light. "Then don't Google it. Don't ask questions you don't want answers to. Just let tonight be what it is. 2 people having dinner. That's not what this is." "No," he agreed softly. "It's not. But we can pretend, can't we? Just for a few hours?" The SUV pulled up in front of Bianchi's, an elegant building with warm lighting spilling from tall windows, a doorman in a burgundy uniform, people in evening wear ascending the wide stone steps. My panic spiked. "Lucian, I really can't." "You can." He squeezed my hand. "You're stronger than you think, Emma. Braver. You proved that in the parking garage. That was different." I was angry, not thinking clearly. "Exactly. You weren't thinking about status or money or who I might be. You were just you. That's what I want tonight. Just you, being yourself." Victor had already exited and opened my door. Marco's vehicle had parked across the street, and I could see him watching through the windshield, hand no doubt resting on whatever weapon he carried. I had 2 choices: stay in the car like a coward, or take Lucian's offered hand and step into a world I didn't belong in. I took his hand. The evening air was cooler now, carrying the scent of expensive perfume and car exhaust. Lucian kept his fingers laced with mine as we climbed the steps, as the doorman opened the heavy glass door with a murmured, "Good evening, Mr. Volkov." Volkov. So that was his last name. Lucian Volkov. The name tugged at something in my memory, something I'd heard on the news maybe, or overheard at the diner. But before I could grasp it, we were inside. The restaurant was even more beautiful than I'd imagined. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light over white tablecloths and gleaming silverware, the murmur of cultured conversation mixed with soft classical music. Every person in the room looked like they'd stepped from a magazine spread, and they all turned to look at us. Or rather, at Lucian. I felt it immediately, the shift in atmosphere, the way conversations paused mid-sentence, the way the maitre d' rushed forward with a practiced smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Mr. Volkov, how wonderful to see you again. Your table is ready." "Thank you, Antonio." Lucian's hand tightened slightly on mine as he guided me through the restaurant. People watched us pass. I caught whispers, saw eyes lingering on me with curiosity, calculation, sometimes pity. An older woman in diamonds clutched her husband's arm, leaning close to whisper something that made him pale. What had I walked into? Our table was in a private alcove at the back of the restaurant, secluded, intimate, with a clear view of the entrance and exits. Lucian pulled out my chair himself, his hands brushing my shoulders as he helped me sit. "You're making people nervous," I whispered, once he'd taken the seat across from me. "I always do." He picked up the wine list, scanning it with practiced ease. "They'll settle down in a moment. Why? Who do they think you are?" He set down the wine list, meeting my eyes directly. "They know exactly who I am, Emma. The question is whether you're ready to know." My mouth went dry. "Tell me." "After dinner." He signaled to a hovering waiter. "For now, let's just enjoy the evening. Have you ever had ossobuco? I don't even know what that is." His smile was genuine, warm. "Then you're in for a treat." The next hour passed in a surreal haze. Lucian ordered in Italian, the words rolling off his tongue like music. The food that arrived was art on plates, delicate, expensive, nothing like the greasy diner fare I served every day. He watched me taste everything, seeming to take pleasure in my reactions. "You're not eating much," I observed. His own plate sat mostly untouched while he'd encouraged me to try everything. "I'm enjoying watching you." He leaned back in his chair, wineglass dangling from his fingers. "You experience things so fully. Like that first bite of the risotto. Your whole face lit up. It's good risotto. It's adequate risotto, but seeing you enjoy it makes it extraordinary." He set down his glass, reaching across the table to take my hand again. "Tell me about yourself, Emma, the real things, not the surface details. There's not much to tell. I work at a diner. I live alone." I stopped, not wanting to mention Mom, not wanting to bear that wound to this dangerous stranger. "You what?" His thumb traced circles on my palm, encouraging. "I used to want things," I admitted quietly. "College, a career, a life that was more than just surviving. But then my mom got sick, and everything else just stopped mattering. She passed away. It wasn't a question. 3 years ago. Cancer." I pulled my hand back, reaching for my water glass to have something to do. "After she died, I just couldn't seem to start again. It was easier to keep working, keep moving, than to face the fact that all my dreams died with her." Lucian was quiet for a long moment, his dark eyes studying me with an intensity that made me want to squirm. "You're drowning," he finally said. Slowly, quietly, but drowning nonetheless. "Maybe." I met his gaze. "And you're throwing me a rope that's probably attached to an anchor." He laughed, a real laugh that transformed his face, making him look younger, less dangerous, probably, but at least it would be a beautiful way to drown. "That's not funny." "No, it's not." His expression sobered. "Emma, I want to be honest with you. More honest than I've been with anyone in years." My heart started racing. "Okay. I'm not a good man. The things I do, the life I live, it's not legal, it's not moral, and it's not safe." He leaned forward, his voice dropping lower. "But from the moment you banged on my car window, I haven't been able to think about anything else. You've gotten under my skin in a way that's dangerous for both of us. What are you saying? I'm saying that I want you, Emma. Want to know you, protect you, keep you safe from the world that's been grinding you down. His hand found mine again, grip almost painful in its intensity. I'm saying that I'm selfish enough to pursue this even though I shouldn't. Even though you deserve someone better, someone cleaner, Lucian. But I'm also saying that if you walk away right now, I'll let you go. I'll disappear from your life, leave you in peace. The choice is yours. I should have chosen to walk away. Should have recognized the red flags waving frantically in my peripheral vision. Should have understood that men like Lucian Volkov, men who needed security details and made restaurant patrons nervous, were nothing but trouble. But I was so tired of being alone, so tired of surviving instead of living, so tired of invisible existence punctuated only by aching feet and insufficient tips. And when he looked at me with those dark, intense eyes, I felt seen in a way I hadn't felt since Mom died. I don't want to walk away, I heard myself say. Something fierce and triumphant flashed across his face. You're sure? No. But I'm doing it anyway. He stood abruptly, throwing cash on the table. Far more than the meal cost, I was certain. Then let's get out of here. What? But we haven't even had dessert. I can't wait another second to do this. He pulled me to my feet, and before I could ask what this was, his hands framed my face and his lips were on mine. The kiss was fierce, claiming, desperate. His mouth moved against mine with a hunger that stole my breath, his fingers tangling in my hair. I gasped against his lips, and he took advantage, deepening the kiss until my knees went weak. Around us, I dimly registered the restaurant going quiet. Gasps, whispers, the clink of dropped silverware. I didn't care. My hands fisted in his suit jacket, pulling him closer, kissing him back with an abandon I didn't recognize in myself. He tasted like wine and danger, and promises I shouldn't believe. When he finally pulled back, we were both breathing hard. His eyes had gone almost black, pupils blown wide with desire. Mine, he murmured against my lips. Say it. I should have protested, should have reminded him that I wasn't an object to be claimed, but the word slipped out anyway, breathless and true. Yours. The ride back was charged with an electricity that made the air feel thick, heavy. Lucian kept his hand on my thigh, possessive and warm through the thin fabric of my dress. Every time Victor took a turn, I slid closer to Lucian, and he'd tighten his grip, keeping me there. Where are we going? I asked, watching unfamiliar streets blur past the window. This wasn't the route back to my apartment. My place. His thumb traced circles on my leg, the touch innocent and incendiary all at once. Unless you want me to take you home, I should have said yes. Should have insisted on going back to my cramped studio with its broken door and memories of a life half-lived. But the word that came out was no. His smile was predatory, satisfied, good. We pulled up to a building that made my breath catch. All glass and steel and modern architecture. The kind of place with a doorman and probably a gym and definitely security that would laugh at my existence. The penthouse lights glowed at the very top like a beacon. Of course he lived in the penthouse. Marco's SUV pulled up behind us as Victor opened my door. The night air had grown cold, and I shivered in my inadequate coat. Lucian noticed immediately, shrugging off his suit jacket and draping it over my shoulders. It smelled like him, cedar and smoke, and something darker I couldn't name. You'll freeze, I protested weakly. I run hot. His hand found the small of my back again, guiding me toward the entrance. And I like seeing you in my clothes. The doorman, older, distinguished, with kind eyes, held the door open with a practiced smile. Good evening, Mr. Volkov. Evening, Richard. Lucian nodded as we passed, his hand never leaving my back. The lobby was all marble and gold accents, with a security desk where 2 men in suits watched monitors, with the same vigilance Marco always displayed. They straightened when they saw Lucian, one of them speaking rapidly into a phone. They're clearing the elevator, Lucian explained, pressing the call button. Standard protocol. Why? Because I don't like surprises. The elevator doors opened immediately, revealing an interior of polished mirrors and brass. And because the fewer people who see you with me, the safer you are, That should have frightened me more than it did. Instead, I stepped into the elevator, watching our reflections multiply into infinity. Lucian pressed the button for the penthouse, marked with a key symbol, requiring a special code he entered without looking. As soon as the doors closed, he pulled me against him. "I've been wanting to do this again since the restaurant," he murmured against my neck, his lips tracing the column of my throat. "You taste like innocence and sin." My head fell back, giving him better access. "I'm not innocent. You are." His teeth grazed my pulse point, making me gasp. "You have no idea what you've walked into. What I'm going to do to your carefully ordered life. Maybe I want it disrupted." He pulled back to look at me, his dark eyes searching mine. "Be careful what you wish for, Emma. I'm not the kind of man who does anything halfway." The elevator chimed, doors opening directly into his apartment. Calling it an apartment was like calling the ocean a puddle. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcased the city lights stretching to the horizon. The furniture was modern, expensive, chosen by someone with taste and unlimited funds. Original artwork hung on the walls. I recognized a Rothko, or at least a very convincing forgery. The kitchen was all marble and stainless steel, probably never used, but it was the little details that caught my attention. A book left open on the coffee table, something in Russian, the Cyrillic script beautiful and incomprehensible. A half-empty glass of whiskey on the bar, a framed photograph on the mantel of a woman who looked like Lucian, same dark eyes, same sharp features, holding a small boy. "Your mother?" I asked, drawn to the photograph. His expression shuddered immediately. "Was. She died when I was 12. I'm sorry. Don't be. She was." He paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. "Complicated. Like you, she was too good for the world she was born into." Before I could ask what he meant, his phone buzzed. Not the expensive one he'd pulled out at the restaurant, but the second one, the one he'd checked in the parking garage. He glanced at the screen, and his entire demeanor changed. The man who'd been kissing my neck in the elevator vanished, replaced by someone cold and lethal. "I need to take this." He was already moving toward a closed door at the far end of the living room. "Make yourself comfortable. I'll only be a moment." Then he was gone, the door closing behind him with a decisive click. I stood alone in the vast space, Lucien's jacket still draped over my shoulders, feeling completely out of place. Through the closed door, I could hear his voice, low, harsh, speaking in what sounded like Russian. The words were incomprehensible, but the tone was unmistakable. He was angry, dangerously so. I moved to the windows, pressing my palm against the cool glass. The city spread out below, millions of lights representing millions of lives, all of them oblivious to the strange turn mine had taken. 2 days ago, my biggest concern was whether Mrs. Henderson would remember to tip. Now I was standing in a penthouse wearing a crime boss's jacket, because that's what he had to be, right? The security, the guns, the way people reacted to his name. Lucian Volkov. I pulled out my phone, fingers hovering over the search bar. He'd asked me not to Google him, to not ask questions I didn't want answers to, but I needed to know. I typed his name and hit search. The results loaded slowly, my cheap phone struggling with the connection. Then they appeared, and my blood ran cold. Lucian Volkov, alleged head of the Volkov crime family. FBI investigates Volkov organization for racketeering, extortion. 3 dead in suspected mob hit. Sources point to Volkov. Notorious crime boss Lucian Volkov photographed at charity gala. There were photos. Lucian in expensive suits at fancy events, always surrounded by security, always with that same controlled expression. Lucian leaving courthouses, his lawyer beside him. Lucian at what looked like a funeral, his face carved from stone. And there were other photos too, bodies covered with sheets, crime scene tape, grieving families. I felt sick. "I asked you not to do that." I spun around. Lucian stood in the doorway of his office, phone still in hand, his expression unreadable. He'd rolled up his sleeves during his call, revealing more of those tattoos on his forearms. Intricate designs I now realized probably had meaning in his world. Are they true? My voice shook. The things they're saying? Some of them. He pocketed the phone, moving toward me with predatory grace. Not all. The media likes to embellish. Did you kill those people? He stopped a few feet away, giving me space I should have appreciated, but somehow didn't want. Yes. The simple honesty of it was more terrifying than any lie would have been. Why? Because they deserved it. Because they threatened my family, my business, my territory. His jaw tightened. Because in my world, mercy is weakness, and weakness gets you killed. Your world. I laughed, but it came out bitter, broken. God, Lucian, you're a mobster, an actual crime boss, and I'm nobody, a waitress who can't even pay her rent on time. You're not nobody. He closed the distance between us, his hands framing my face with a gentleness that contradicted everything I'd just read. You're Emma. You're brave and fierce and so goddamn beautiful it hurts to look at you. You're the first real thing I've encountered in years. I don't belong in this. Tears burned behind my eyes. I don't know how to be with someone who kills people, he finished for me, who runs an empire built on violence and fear, who has more blood on his hands than you can imagine. Yes, I whispered. Then leave. He dropped his hands, stepping back. Walk out that door. I'll have Victor drive you home. You'll never see me again. It was the same offer he'd made at the restaurant. The same choice. And I still couldn't take it. Why me? The question burst out of me, desperate. You could have anyone. Why chase after some nobody waitress who yelled at you about a parking space? Something raw flickered across his face. Because you looked at me like I was human. Not a monster, not a meal ticket, not a stepping stone. Just a man who'd annoyed you. He ran a hand through his hair, disrupting the perfect styling. Do you have any idea how rare that is? How exhausting it is to be me? Everyone wants something. Money, power, protection, death. But you just wanted your parking space back. That's insane. Probably. He smiled without humor. Most things about me are, but I can't change what I feel, Emma. And I've felt more in the 2 days since meeting you than I have in years. What do you feel? He moved closer, slowly, giving me time to retreat. I didn't. His hands found my waist, pulling me against him until I could feel the solid heat of his body, the steady thrum of his heartbeat. Obsession, he murmured against my hair. Possession. The absolute certainty that you're mine, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to keep you safe and happy, even if that means protecting you from myself. That's not love. I never said it was love. His hands tightened on my waist. I don't know if I'm capable of love. But I know that the thought of you going back to that broken apartment, working yourself to exhaustion for scraps, being invisible to everyone around you, it makes me want to burn the world down. I should have been terrified, should have recognized the danger in his words, in the fierce possessiveness of his grip. Instead, I tilted my face up to his. Show me. Show you what? What you feel. What you want. Show me why I should stay. Something dark and hungry flashed in his eyes. Emma. Show me, Lucian. He didn't need to be told again. His mouth claimed mine with a desperate hunger that stole my breath, his hands roaming over my body like he was trying to memorize every curve. I kissed him back just as desperately, my fingers tangling in his hair, pulling him closer. We stumbled backward toward the couch, a tangle of limbs in desperation. His jacket fell from my shoulders. His hands found the zipper of my dress, sliding it down slowly, reverently. Last chance. He breathed against my neck. Walk away, Emma. Save yourself. Instead, I pulled him down to me. What happened next was a blur of sensation. His hands on my skin, my fingers tracing the tattoos on his arms, the solid weight of him above me, the way he whispered my name like a prayer and a curse all at once. He was gentle and fierce by turns, patient and desperate, giving and demanding. And when it was over, when we lay tangled together on his expensive couch, my head on his chest listening to his heartbeat slow, I knew there was no going back. I'd crossed a line I couldn't uncross. Stay, he murmured into my hair, his arms tightening around me. Not just tonight. Stay with me. I can't just move in with you. I barely know you. Then get to know me. Let me get to know you. His fingers traced patterns on my bare shoulder. I'll give you everything, Emma. Safety, comfort, a A life where you never have to worry about rent or bills or working yourself to death. All I ask in return is you. That's not a fair trade. You're asking for everything. I'm offering everything too. He shifted, propping himself up on one elbow to look down at me. I know this is fast. I know it's insane. But I've learned not to waste time when I find something I want. And I want you, Emma, more than I've wanted anything in my entire life. What if I can't handle your world? What if... Then I'll protect you from it. His thumb brushed across my lips. I have enemies, Emma. Dangerous people who would hurt you to get to me. But I also have power, resources, an entire organization dedicated to keeping what's mine safe. And you're mine now. Whether you live here or in that apartment with the broken door, you're mine. And I protect what's mine. The possessiveness in his voice should have frightened me. Instead, it sent a thrill through my exhausted body. I need to think, I said finally. This is too much. Too fast. I need time to... My phone buzzed from somewhere in the tangle of discarded clothes, then buzzed again. And again. Lucian reached down, fishing it from my coat pocket and handing it to me with a raised eyebrow. The screen showed 12 missed calls from Sarah and 3 frantic texts. Em, where are you? The diner was robbed tonight. Pete got hurt bad. Please tell me you weren't there. Please call me. My blood went cold. Oh, God. What is it? Lucian sat up immediately, all business, his hand finding my shoulder. The diner. Someone robbed it. My manager. I was already scrambling for my clothes, fingers shaking so badly I could barely manage the zipper. I need to go. I need to make sure Sarah's okay, and Pete... I'll take you. Lucian was already dressed, moving with efficient speed. He pressed a button on his phone. Victor, bring the car around. Now. You don't have to. Emma. He gripped my shoulders, forcing me to meet his eyes. You're mine now. That means your problems are my problems. Your people are my people. Let me help. I nodded, unable to speak past the fear clogging my throat. The ride to the diner was tense and silent. Marco's SUV followed close behind, and I could see him speaking rapidly into his phone through the rear window. Lucian kept his hand in mine, his grip almost painful, his jaw tight. When we pulled up to Rosie's, police cars flanked the entrance, their lights painting everything red and blue. An ambulance was just pulling away, sirens silent but lights flashing. I was out of the SUV before Victor had fully stopped, running toward the diner where Sarah stood wrapped in a blanket, mascara streaked down her face. Em! She grabbed me in a fierce hug. Oh, thank God. I thought maybe you'd been here, that maybe... I'm fine. What happened? Is Pete... He's alive. They took him to St. Mary's. Got hit in the head pretty bad when he tried to stop them. She pulled back, wiping at her eyes. It was 3 guys. Ski masks. They took the register and... She stopped, her eyes going wide as she looked over my shoulder. I turned to find Lucian standing there, Marco and 2 other men flanking him, all of them looking like exactly what they were. Dangerous. Emma, Sarah whispered. Who is that? Before I could answer, a police officer approached. Miss, I need to get your statement if you... He stopped dead when he saw Lucian, his face going pale. Mr. Volkov. Officer Patterson. Lucian's voice was pleasant, controlled. But I heard the steel underneath. You're going to find the men who did this. Tonight. It wasn't a request. Patterson swallowed hard. Sir, we're doing everything we can, but... Tonight, Lucian repeated, taking a step closer. 3 men in ski masks, probably amateurs looking for quick cash. Check the pawn shops, the usual fences. And Patterson? When you find them, make sure they understand that this establishment is under my protection now. Anyone who touches it, anyone who threatens the people who work here, answers to me. Understood? Yes, sir. Patterson was sweating despite the cool night air. Absolutely, Mr. Volkov. Lucian turned to me, his expression softening. Is there anything else you need here? I looked at Sarah, at the broken glass on the diner floor, at the police milling around, at the life I'd built slowly crumbling. No, I whispered. Let's go. In the SUV, I finally let myself cry. For Pete, For Sarah, for the illusion of safety I'd clung to, for the simple life that had just become impossibly complicated. Lucian pulled me against him, his arms solid and warm and terrifyingly comforting. "They'll pay," he murmured into my hair. "Anyone who hurt your people will pay, I promise you that." And God help me, I believed him. I woke up in Lucian's bed, a massive thing with silk sheets and too many pillows, all of them smelling like cedar and smoke and him. Sunlight streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows I'd been too exhausted to close last night, painting the white walls gold. My funeral dress lay draped over a chair. My broken heels sat neatly by the door. And on the nightstand, my phone buzzed with messages I wasn't ready to read. Lucian wasn't beside me. I found him in the kitchen, wearing dark slacks and a white shirt unbuttoned at the collar, his sleeves rolled up to reveal those intricate tattoos. He was on the phone, the second one, always the second one, speaking rapid Russian while he made coffee with the kind of expensive machine that probably cost more than my car. He looked up when I entered, his dark eyes tracking my movement across the room. Without interrupting his conversation, he poured a second cup of coffee, added cream and sugar, without asking how I took it, because of course he'd noticed at the diner, and slid it across the marble counter toward me. I wrapped my hands around the warm mug, listening to him speak in a language I didn't understand, wondering how my life had become this strange dream where mobsters made me coffee in penthouse apartments. He ended the call abruptly, setting the phone down with finality. "Good morning." "Morning." I took a sip. "Perfect." Of course it was perfect. "Did you sleep?" "A few hours." He moved around the counter toward me, his hand finding my waist with the same possessive certainty he'd shown last night. "How are you feeling?" "Confused. Scared, like I'm in someone else's life." I met his eyes. "Did they find them? The men who robbed the diner?" Something dark and satisfied crossed his face. "They did. All three are currently explaining their mistake to some associates of mine." "What does that mean?" "It means they won't be robbing anyone else. Ever." He said it so casually, like discussing the weather. "And it means every criminal in this city now knows that Rosie's diner and everyone who works there is off limits. You're safe, Emma. Your friends are safe. Because you claimed us," the words tasted bitter, like property. "Because I protect what's mine." His grip tightened slightly on my waist. "I won't apologize for that. I'm not asking you to." I set down my coffee, turning to face him fully. "But I need to understand what I'm agreeing to here. If I stay, if I'm yours, like you keep saying, what does that actually mean?" He was quiet for a long moment, studying my face with those intense dark eyes. Then he took my hand, leading me to the living room, to the couch where we'd tangled together last night. "It means you move in here," he said, pulling me down beside him. "It means you quit working at the diner. Or you keep working if that's important to you. But you never have to worry about money again. It means I give you everything you need, everything you've gone without since your mother died. And what do you get? You." He said it simply, like it was obvious. "Your time, your attention, your presence in my life. I want to come home to you, want to wake up beside you, want to know that in all the darkness and violence and chaos of my world, there's one pure thing waiting for me. I'm not pure, Lucian. I'm just ordinary. You're extraordinary." His thumb brushed across my knuckles. "And yes, there are rules. You don't leave without security. You don't go anywhere I haven't cleared first. You don't speak to the police, to reporters, to anyone asking questions about me or my business. So I'd be a prisoner. You'd be protected." His jaw tightened. "Emma, I have enemies. Real dangerous people who would hurt you without hesitation if they knew you mattered to me. And you do matter. More than is probably wise for either of us. What if I can't do it? What if your world is too much for me? Then we figure it out together." He pulled me closer, until I was half in his lap, his arms wrapped around me like he could physically keep the world at bay. "I'm not saying this will be easy, but I'm saying I'll do everything in my power to make you happy, to give you the life you deserve." My phone buzzed again. This time I looked at it. Sarah had sent 15 messages, each one more frantic than the last. The most recent simply said, "Please be okay. Love you." "I need to talk to Sarah," I said. "She's worried." "Invite her here, for lunch. Let her see that you're safe." He kissed my temple. And Emma? She's under my protection now, too. Her and Pete and anyone else from that diner you care about, they won't be touched. Just like that? You just decide people are under your protection? Just like that. He smiled slightly. Benefits of being who I am. I texted Sarah back, told her I was fine, invited her to lunch at an address that would probably make her eyes pop out of her head. Then I set the phone down and looked at Lucian, really looked at him. I want conditions, I said. His eyebrow lifted. Conditions? If I'm staying, if I'm doing this insane thing, then I need some ground rules too. I took a breath, gathering courage. I want to keep working at the diner, not every shift, but some. I need that normalcy, that connection to my old life. Done. Though you'll have security with you. I want to be able to see my friends without an audience. Security stays, but they'll be discreet. Non-negotiable, Emma. Your safety isn't up for debate. I nodded, accepting that. And I want honesty. If you're going to do something terrible, something violent, I don't need details, but I need to know. No secrets that could put me in danger. I can agree to that. His hand cupped my face. Anything else? Yeah. I met his eyes. I want you to try, to be more than what you were raised to be. I'm not asking you to stop being who you are. I'm not that naive. But I want you to try to be better, for me. Something vulnerable flickered across his face. You're asking a lot. You're asking for everything. I think I'm entitled to ask for something back. He laughed. A real laugh, warm and genuine. Fair enough. He pulled me fully into his lap, his arms wrapping around me. I'll try, Emma. I'll try to be the man you see when you look at me instead of the monster everyone else sees. I see both, I admitted. That's what scares me. Good. You should be scared. It means you're smart. He pressed his forehead to mine, but I swear to you, I will never hurt you. Never let anyone else hurt you. You're the one thing in this world I'll keep safe no matter what it costs me. That's a big promise. I don't make promises I can't keep. We sat there for a while, tangled together on his expensive couch. The city sprawling below us, the future uncertain and terrifying and somehow right. When Sarah arrived for lunch, escorted up by Victor, because of course Lucian had sent a car for her, her eyes were huge as she took in the penthouse, the view, the man who'd claimed me. Holy shit, Em, she whispered when Lucian excused himself to take a call. That's Lucian Volkov, the Lucian Volkov. What the hell are you doing? I don't know, I admitted. Something stupid or something right. I haven't figured out which yet. He's dangerous. Like actually dangerous. I Googled him after last night. Emma, there are bodies, I know. I grabbed her hands. I know what he is. But Sarah, I've been sleepwalking through life for 3 years. Just existing. Just surviving. And he makes me feel alive again. Is that worth the risk? I don't know. But I think I need to find out. She studied my face for a long moment, then sighed. You're glowing. I've never seen you glow before. It's terrifying and kind of beautiful. She pulled me into a hug. Just promise me you'll be careful, and that you won't forget about us regular people down here in reality. Never, I promised. You're stuck with me. Lunch was surprisingly normal. Lucian ordered in from somewhere expensive, and he was charming with Sarah, careful not to show the darker side I knew lurked beneath his surface. He asked about Pete, assured her the hospital bills would be covered, mentioned casually that the diner's broken windows would be replaced by the end of the week. After Sarah left, I found myself standing at those massive windows again, looking out at the city that suddenly felt both bigger and smaller than it had before. Lucian came up behind me, his arms wrapping around my waist, his chin resting on my shoulder. What are you thinking? That my life was very small 2 days ago, and now it's terrifyingly large. I leaned back against him, that I should be running as fast as I can. But I'm not. Why aren't you? Because I'm tired of being invisible. And when you look at me, I feel seen. I turned in his arms to face him. That's probably not a good enough reason to upend my entire life for a mobster. But it's the truth. It's good enough for me. He kissed me softly, sweetly. Nothing like the desperate hunger of last night. This was a promise, a beginning. Welcome home, Emma. Home. The word settled into my chest, warm and terrifying and right. The next few weeks were a blur of adjustment. I moved my pathetic possessions into Lucian's penthouse. It took exactly one trip, which was depressing and freeing all at once. He converted one of his spare rooms into a space for me, somewhere I could retreat when his world became too much. I kept working at the diner 3 days a week. Victor or Marco always nearby, but trying to be subtle about it. The other servers got used to seeing expensive SUVs parked outside. Customers whispered and stared, but no one bothered me. No one dared. Pete recovered slowly, and when he tried to thank me for the hospital bills being covered, I had to pretend I didn't know exactly who'd paid them. The diner installed a new security system. The neighborhood suddenly became safer, the usual troublemakers mysteriously leaving Rosie's alone. I learned Lucian's routines, the late-night calls he took in his office, the meetings with dangerous men who showed him deference bordering on fear, the way he'd come home sometimes with blood on his cuffs that we both pretended I didn't notice. He never brought his work home, never exposed me to the violence directly. But I knew. God, I knew. But I also learned softer things. That he read voraciously, mostly Russian literature I couldn't pronounce. That his mother had been a pianist, and he'd had her piano moved to the penthouse after she died, though he never played it. That he was terrified of thunderstorms, a fear he hid behind cold control, that he loved fiercely, protectively, with an intensity that sometimes overwhelmed me, and I learned that I loved him back. It happened gradually, then all at once. The way he'd learned my coffee order without asking. The way he'd track me across rooms with his eyes like he couldn't quite believe I was real. The way he'd hold me at night like I was the only thing anchoring him to humanity. The way he'd sit with me while I cried on the anniversary of Mom's death. Not offering platitudes, but just being there, solid and warm and present. 3 months after that night in the parking garage, I woke to find him watching me sleep, his dark eyes soft in the early morning light. "What?" I murmured, still half asleep. "I love you." He said it simply, like stating a fact. I know I shouldn't. I know it's dangerous for both of us. But I do. My heart stuttered in my chest. "Lucien, you don't have to say it back. I just needed you to know." He brushed hair from my face. "You've changed everything, Emma. Made me want to be better. To build something beyond violence and fear. You make me human." "I love you too," I whispered, the words feeling both terrifying and inevitable. I'm probably crazy, and this is definitely a disaster waiting to happen. But I love you. His smile was like sunrise, slow, beautiful, transforming. Then I guess we're both crazy, probably. I pulled him down to me, kissing him softly. But at least we're crazy together. 6 months later, Lucian took me back to that parking garage, the place where it all started. The place where I'd been too tired and angry to be afraid, where I'd yelled at a mobster about a parking space and somehow found a life worth living. "I wanted to ask you here," he said, pulling a small box from his pocket, "where you first claimed me without even knowing it." My breath caught. "Lucian, I know this life isn't easy. I know you gave up safety and normalcy to be with me. But Emma, you've given me something I never thought I'd have: peace. Purpose beyond power." He opened the box, revealing a ring that glittered in the fluorescent lights. "Marry me. Be mine officially, completely. Let me spend the rest of my life protecting you, loving you, trying to be worthy of you." I should have thought about it more, should have considered the implications, the dangers, the complete insanity of marrying into the mob. Instead, I said, yes, because somewhere between anger in a parking garage and love in a penthouse, I'd stopped surviving and started living. And if that life came with danger and darkness and a man who killed people but looked at me like I hung the stars, well, I'd take it over invisible existence any day. He slipped the ring on my finger, a perfect fit, because of course he'd already had it sized, and kissed me with all the fierce possession I'd come to crave. Around us, the parking garage was just a parking garage, smelling of burnt rubber and stale coffee. But to us, it was the birthplace of something rare and dangerous and real. "I love you," he murmured against my lips. My fierce, beautiful Emma. I love you too, I whispered back. My terrifying, possessive mobster. He laughed, and the sound echoed off concrete walls, transforming the mundane space into something magical. We went home. To the penthouse that was now ours, to the life we'd built together, to the future that stretched ahead uncertain and dangerous in ours. And if sometimes I thought about the girl I'd been before, tired, invisible, drowning in an existence that barely qualified as living, I didn't mourn her. She'd needed to die so I could be reborn. In fire and darkness, in the arms of a man who'd burn the world down to keep me safe. It wasn't a normal love story, but it was ours. And that was enough.